Hi, I'm Scott Sanders with Tobacco Barn Distillery. I want to talk to you today about an exciting opportunity to invest in a venture that not only helps preserve our Chesapeake Bay watershed, but also provides a local, high-protein food source for Maryland's farming community, providing you a return on your investment. Not only that, but your investment is collateralized by our single-batch, handcrafted bourbon. Our bourbon is awesome, but don't take my word for it. It's right here on page 71 of Whiskey Advocate magazine. First, let me tell you a little bit about our distillery. Tobacco Barn Distillery is the 9th licensed distillery in Maryland since Prohibition, and the first farm distillery. Well, legally anyways. We're post-revenue at about $125,000 of revenue per year and growing at 50% year over year. We're located on a former tobacco farm in St. Mary's County, Maryland, where we grow corn and we make the best bourbon you will ever taste. That's because we control every step in the bourbon production process, from the time we place the seed in the ground until we put the cap on the bottle. Our water is pulled from a deep and ancient aquifer down at 362 feet and is perfect for mashing our corn and the rye that we get from Charlotte Hall, Maryland. We then take those grains to the Mennonites in Loveville, Maryland and have them ground. Joe Stauffer and his boys make a great grind for our bourbon, and as part of our commitment to involve the other farming and the community in our business. We make our mash the way they did here in Maryland 300 years ago. That's right, I said 300 years ago. You may not know that Maryland was the birthplace of bourbon in America, but that's another story, and I only have a few minutes here. We use our corn and rye that we had in colonial Maryland. These two great products make the best bourbon around, our corn and the rye from Charlotte Hall. Our mashing takes about 5 days and we let nature take its time. Fermentation of the mash can go quicker or slower, it just depends on the weather at the farm. Once the mash is down, we strip out the alcohol by running it through a 300-gallon mash tun still. It takes about 7 hours. We make sure we capture all the carbohydrates that have been fermented into alcohol in our still. After this step, we have about 90 gallons of what's called low wines, and about 30% alcohol, and about 210 gallons of high protein mash. That spent mash is about 92% liquid, and we have been donating it to local hog farmers to slop. This helps us reuse and preserve the environment as much as possible. That's where the investment opportunity comes in. As we increase our production this year and in coming years, we'll be having more and more spent mash. If we had a mash press, we could take our current mash, make it into a revenue-producing byproduct by dewatering it that would now serve as feed for cattle, horse, pigs, chicken, sheep, and goats. We're asking for a crowdsourcing investment of $25,000 to buy a mash press for a sustainability process. By our current estimates, we would make about 6 times the amount of bourbon in less than 3 years. With that amount of bourbon mash and at today's prices, we'll be generating almost $20,000 by the end of year 4, about $5,000 a year. So you will recoup most of your investment at year 4, and we will provide you with $20,000 of our bourbon at year 2. You can leave it longer if you want to. It only increases in value. So, who wants to help preserve the environment, promote Maryland agriculture, and make some great bourbon?